All right, today we're tearing into a book that's, well, it's less of a read and more of an all-out assault on your comfort zone. We're talking about Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. And trust me, this isn't just a memoir. It's basically a field manual for smashing through the mental barriers you probably don't even know you have. Right from the get-go, Goggins doesn't ease you in. He hits you with this. It's a direct warning. He's framing comfort not as something to strive for, but as a genuine danger zone. This one sentence really sets the stage for the entire book. It's all about unshackling your mind from the cozy trap of good enough. And here's his diagnosis for why we're stuck in that trap. Goggins throws out this idea that when our mind is screaming, "I'm done, I can't go on," we're not actually done, not even close. We're only at about 40% of our real capability. The idea that there's this massive, untapped 60% just waiting for us, that's the whole mystery Goggins wants us to solve. So the big question is, how do you get to that untapped 60%? For Goggins, the answer starts with forging what he calls an armored mind. And this wasn't something he built in a gym or a library. It was hammered into shape in the fires of a pretty brutal childhood. To put it bluntly, Goggins was, in his own words, dealt a bad hand. His early life was a nightmare of constant, violent beatings from his own father, dealing with crushing poverty, and facing just relentless racism. I mean, by any standard, this was a kid who was set up to fail. And that leads to this crucial question. When you are at absolute rock bottom and it feels like you're drowning, how do you even start to fight back? Goggins says simple motivation isn't going to cut it. That's just a temporary high. No, you have to literally go to war with yourself. And this was his first weapon in that war, the accountability mirror. Instead of running from the ugly truth, Goggins forced himself to look at it. He'd stand in front of his mirror and cover it with sticky notes detailing his goals and, even more important, all his failures. It was a daily, brutally honest showdown with himself. No excuses, no sugarcoating, just the truth. The philosophy behind it is just so simple. Stop lying to yourself. If you're out of shape, don't say you need to lose a few pounds. Goggins says you look in that mirror and you say, "You're fat." That raw, unfiltered honesty is the first step. You have to own the problem before you can ever hope to fix it. So, after confronting those personal demons, Goggins aimed for one of the most punishing tests on the entire planet, becoming a Navy SEAL. And this is where his mind was really put to the test, in the crucible of Bud's training, specifically the infamous Hell Week. And Hell Week is, well, exactly what it sounds like. We are talking about 130 straight hours. That's over 5 days in a row with almost zero sleep. It's just a state of constant, manufactured misery. The whole thing is designed to find your breaking point and then just shove you right past it. So how on earth does anyone get through that? When every single cell in your body is just screaming at you to quit, what do you do? Right there, in the middle of all that chaos, Goggins came up with 2 incredibly powerful mental strategies. First, he developed what he calls a calloused mind. He had this realization that all the pain from his past, the abuse, the racism, the failures, they weren't just baggage, they were training. They had built up this protective layer, a mental callus, that let him endure suffering that broke other people. He literally learned to use his pain as fuel. Second, he started taking souls. Now, this is a mind game you play, both on yourself and on your opponents. Right when the instructors expected him to be at his absolute weakest, totally miserable and broken, he would smile, or he'd ask for more. This act of pure defiance gave him this huge psychological edge. It proved to himself that he was in control, not the pain. So out of those fires, Goggins didn't just come out tougher, he came out with a whole mental arsenal. He basically distilled all these experiences into repeatable tools that really anyone can use to wage war on their own limitations. A big one is the cookie jar. The idea is when you're in pain and you want to quit, you reach into this mental list of all your past victories. You remember a time you overcame some huge obstacle, a time you succeeded when the odds were stacked against you. You pull out that memory, that cookie, and you use it as fuel. It's a powerful reminder of who you are at your absolute best, and it gives you a jolt of energy right when you need it most. And this brings us right back to that 40% rule. Goggins believes our brain has a kind of governor built into it, like in a car engine, to protect us. It sends out pain signals and feelings of exhaustion to make us stop long before we're actually at our physical limit. And that stopping point? It's usually right around 40% of our real potential. So the key is to recognize that little voice telling you to stop for what it is. It's just the governor talking. The goal isn't to suddenly jump from 40 to 100%. Not at all. It's to just push a little bit further each time, maybe 5 or 10% more. You do 105 push-ups instead of 100. You run 1 more mile. By consistently stretching that comfort zone, you slowly start to remove that governor. But here's the thing about the Goggins mindset. It's not about winning one race or hitting one big goal. It's a permanent change in how you see life itself. It's a mission that never, ever ends. This quote just captures it perfectly. The second you think you've made it, you start getting soft again. Success isn't some destination you arrive at. The process, the struggle, that constant push to get better, that's the game, and it never ends. So if you had to boil it all down, the ethos of Can't Hurt Me is basically this. You master your own mind so you can defy the odds. You learn to use your pain as the very fuel for your growth. You strive to be uncommon, even among the uncommon. And you find a way to stay peaceful, but never, ever satisfied. And the book really leaves all of us with this simple but incredibly powerful question. After hearing his story, after understanding these tools, you can't help but ask yourself, what if? What if all these limits I've accepted my whole life aren't even real? What if I'm capable of so much more? What if